Why am I over there? Why am I over there? Let's come over here. Hey, everybody. Mommy's on live right now. All righty. All righty. We are live in the house. 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 We are live. Okay. So we're live in the house. Oh, and my hair does not want to cooperate. So those of you, welcome to Transitional Housing Maximize Live. I am Tony Wade, the compassionate investor. And y'all already know I mess with this hair enough to try to keep it where it stays because it is just so long, it just doesn't want to do its thing. So I'm trying to keep it up. But those of you who are here, welcome, welcome, welcome. We are at Transitional Housing Maximize Live Q&A for you to ask me whatever, excuse me, gotta get some water, whatever you want to ask me because we are live. And if you are from my school community, please let me know because you get first dibs at questions. And I cannot open this. My son put this so tight and I can't. Oh my gosh. Uh, okay, while I'm waiting. Well, hey, good to see you, Miss Parker. Good to see you. Once I get this water on, we're gonna get started. There we go. All right. Um, so we've got a lot of questions that came in already. And those of you who are here from my school community, go ahead and ask me questions because your questions trump the ones that came in already because you're here live. Those who send it to me on school, you're going to get yours answered. And then anybody else, I'm here for the next 30-ish minutes to get through some Q&A. You know what? This makes me look sort of rosy. Like, I got rosy cheeks. Look how rosy that is. Okay, so I got distracted that fast looking at my cheeks. All right, so let's get to the Q&A. I'm excited today. We've been having our transitional housing maximized 5-day blueprint challenge. This is the last one I'm offering live for 5 days, and it's really been going well. So I'm so excited for just having a good time with them. We were covering today specifically program and property fit. So if anybody has a question in that, if you're here from the 5-day challenge and I didn't get all of the questions in, you can ask me a question about property and your program and property fit because that's so important. So many people get into this space of transitional housing and they go get properties. You don't go get properties first. So if you hear me now, this is your first time hearing me say, do not go out and get a property first. Know what your program is because your program dictates your property. I'm just going to say that. So that's a free one. We're going to go ahead and jump right into some Q&A that I got. I don't see anyone with any questions yet in the audience. So we're going to jump right in with the first question. And I like this question because those of you who hear and listen to me talk about the COC, if you do not know what the COC is, it's called Continuum of Care. And with hey, hi Miss Octavia, how you doing? So with the Continuum of Care, it is a HUD recognized collaborative body. Okay, every county has one, and there are some people who get in this space that don't even connect with their COCs. Now, which is okay too. You can operate in a silo, but why operate in a silo if you don't have to? This is a group of people who come together who care about our unhoused population. So one person asked, how do I join and work with my local COC? So this is me speaking in honor of our COC because at the end of the day, it is a HUD recognized collaborative body that does come together with the right intentions. And I'm going to say, I blanket that across every one of them that currently exists. And in order to get any funding from HUD, you have to get it through the COC. And the COC has those dollars and they address homelessness in their community. So if you're interested in being a part of your local COC, I want to just tell you first and foremost, when you go, you need to go with the intention of being a sponge first, and I say that as nicely as I can. You don't want to go in any other way but to absorb knowledge, to understand what it is that your community is experiencing. And they are equipped. You're going to learn things you ain't never learned before going to your local COC. And I'll just tell you, they are dictated by county. So, like here in St. Louis City, we have one that is the St. Louis City COC. Then we have the St. Louis County COC. Then we got another COC that manages St. Charles County. We got one in Lincoln, and I'm a part of all of them. So I would just tell you, find the one that is where you're going to be. So, like right now, I was in the city, now I'm in Lincoln County. So I'm connected with the one that's in that tri area, and affiliated with them. So find the one that's closest to the property that you are, the programming where you want to be with your program, and then where you'll identify a property if you don't have one yet. And you can simply look online and see where it is in your county. And then I would encourage you to find out when they meet. Find out what it would take to become a member. Membership is free. And then when you go with the intention to literally gain a lot of knowledge, because you're going to learn acronyms you ain't ever heard before. And you're going to hear things that you've never experienced. But don't go in there, because you're going to learn a lot. So go in there to learn and be a sponge. I will say that as you get into this space in transitional housing, you will want to attend the meetings regularly, because once you become a member and you're there, they have certain criteria that dictate whether you can qualify for monies coming down the pike, or if you get to vote on things in that community. You can, or you don't have to. It's not a requirement. I'm going to tell you, don't go into this to turn this into a whole nother job. Okay, don't turn it into a job, because it will get exciting. You will love it. And if you have a heart like I have a heart, you're going to go in there wanting to help where you can help. All right. But don't go in there trying to do everything. Just go in there to first understand your population that you want to serve, where those needs are. Because you might say, well, I have a heart for working with veterans. And you might get there and it's so saturated with people providing services for veterans, or you find partnerships with those people who are heavily invested with veterans. You see where I'm going? So I would just encourage you to get involved, become a member, go to the meetings regularly, and then volunteer where you can, but don't overextend yourself. Hear me when I say, do not overextend yourself, um, because it can turn into a journey that you might not be prepared for. I will say it can become very consuming. So just keep the main thing when you go. Go with a heart that you have to be compassionate and be able to help. But the main thing is to figuring out what is needed in the community, what they are doing to address it in the community, and then make some connections. Make friends with one or two people. Make that your task going into it. Now, um, not asking you to be best friends with people. I'm asking you to get to know some people and build relationships. And you go with your heart. God will give you discernment related to people. Use that discernment going forward and just start building relationships. That is your main objective going in. And if they have a landlord engagement community or a landlord engagement group, sign up. Because you're going to learn a lot more working with your landlord engagement group, probably more so than the service delivery committee. There are several committees. People ask me all the time, well, which committee should I go to? Go to the one that's around housing, where they're actually looking at what the housing inventory looks like, or how they deliver services. And typically, all of them have services of which you want to create partnerships with, because you don't want to do all the heavy lift. You want them to do the heavy lift, but you provide the housing. And you can just find out where the needs are. And if you get one or two good relationships from them, then they will help direct you where you need to go, because they're going to be your experts. That's what I would encourage you to do when you're looking at the COC. I know I talked long about that one, but I love talking about the COC, because I truly, no matter what has happened to me in the past related to the COC, I love the work overall that they do, because they have a heart. But I don't want to drink the Kool-Aid. I don't want to get into the place where innovation is not received, or you can't be able to be creative in the way in which we can address homelessness, because that is critical to us dealing with affordable housing and homelessness. We have to be creative and innovative, and sometimes you have to persuade a lot to get people to understand what it is that you can offer in that space. But we are in a day now where it's necessary. They're going to be looking for you. They're going to be looking for your housing today because it's shifted the last 5 years, and you're in the best time to do that work now. All right, question number two. No questions over here yet, so let's go back over here. How do I measure the success of my program? So, I can honestly say that measuring success is essential for funding, and especially for your credibility of what it is that you're building, and for people, and for you to really be able to make improvements on what it is that you're building. So once you get an idea of what it is that you want to create, and let me just elaborate on programming for a second, because I saw somebody post something somewhere where they were talking about you don't need to have a program to do transitional housing. Let me explain. You do have to have a program. All right. It's not, at least what I create for transitional housing, because the goal is to transform someone. How do you think you're going to transform somebody just throwing them in a place and giving them housing and letting somebody else do the heavy lift, which you still can do? I'm not saying you can't have partnership, but what you need is what are you wanting to create with them? I'm not going to go in a lot of detail on this because this is the stuff we spend time talking about in our blueprint challenge that we're doing right this week, our 5-day blueprint channel challenge. But we talk specifically what it looks like to create a program. But I'm going to let you know, if you simply want to provide housing, then you're not doing transitional housing. You're doing independent living, you're doing house hacking, you're doing group homes, but you're doing something that doesn't involve programming. All right. And there are some group homes that do programming. So I'll take that off the list. But other stuff, if you're just providing housing, you're doing rooming, you're doing boarding houses, you're doing rooming. You're not doing a program. If you're doing transitional housing, on some level, what are you bringing to them to help them get to success? So when we're talking about measuring that success, you get to identify what those key metrics are that you're going to track. If you're going to track, and it depends on your program. Like, I know I can speak to mine. Mine is really around sustainable skills training. So all the things that I track are things related to their credit, things related to their job, being stable on their job, seasoned and stable, how they are on their budgeting. Like, there's specific things that we measure to make sure we're moving them from one point to another point. Because in order to move them through the time span you call it out for, you have to be able to have some measurables. And those key metrics are critical to making that happen. You could be measuring in your program maybe the employment rates of the people coming in, like when they come in with no employment and they come out with employment, whether you're giving them a course that they are to complete, what do those completion rates look like? You could be looking at how their attendance is related to, if there's outings that you're doing, them participating in a number of outings. You get to determine that. And I would just encourage you, don't overwhelm the process. If you have a lot that you want to accomplish, narrow it down to just maybe 3 core things that you can do. And then from there, we build. But you definitely need to have something that you can track and measure. And that is how you can truly measure success, is when people are actually going through those steps, not necessarily getting to the end goal, because the likelihood of you having 100% completion rate, unless that's, or 100% success rate, is if you didn't really have a lot that you were measuring, and a lot of things that you were wanting to give them to show a transformation. But you get to determine all of that. And I would just say, do that the best way that you can in that space. All right. Question number 3. How, okay. Says, how do I maintain resident dignity while enforcing the rules? So at the end of the day, you have to remember, they're not kids. They're not children. So if they're adults and they are, um, individuals not dealing with like heavy disability, I mean, high disabilities that you're having to deal with, but for the most part, you're dealing with adults and you don't want to treat them like children. And there's a lot of things that you can do that could make it look like that. So your rules, the rules that you create and put together, they're the things that create the order. They're the ones that create the safety that you need to create in the home. And when you and enforcing that must be balanced. You by treating them with respect and treating them with dignity. And when you can do that well, you honestly can show the value, and you're not there to be the police. You're not there to be like none of that stuff. You want to treat them with respect. They are human beings in a program that you're providing for them, and you want them to feel valued. You want them to have dignity, and you want them to have some respect. And to the things you want, they want too. So I would just encourage you to implement um, some best practices around when you're talking to them, address the behavior related to them, not them individually. Never refer to them as being a certain way when it's not them. It's just an activity that they're doing that isn't acceptable to you. So you really want to make sure that, like if they're leaving dishes in the sink, don't talk about, hey, y'all are lazy, y'all are this, or y'all are that. No, you need to treat them with respect and just say, well, this is one of the issues that we are having is people are leaving dishes in the sink and it's creating issues. Like there's ways in which you can communicate through those issues and the behavior that they may be exhibiting that is not behavior you want. But setting those guidelines up front related to that is going to help. I would also encourage you to avoid public shaming. I know sometimes, they always say to praise publicly and give constructive feedback in private. We really work on that a lot. I don't like having like if we, when we do our group home meetings, we're not there to make everyone feel uncomfortable. We're here to reinforce the rules that we've created and the guidelines that we operate by. And if they're broken, you deal with them privately. And if it continues to become an issue, you just have to know how to balance that and deal with that. But the goal is to definitely not shame them publicly. We don't promote that at all. Now, as we look at even the things that you can do to create the dignity, I always like for them to I wanna model the things that I expect. So, if there are specific things I'm looking for, I wanna praise them for the things that they're doing well, and I model what I'm looking for so that they can replicate what I'm doing. Those are some best practices. I know when you do that, you can create dignity in your home. So I hope that answered your question to the heart of it. If it didn't, please let me know if it's something specific you're looking for as it relates to dignity and enforcing rules. The next question we've got is, how do I keep my program adaptable to change? And I'm going to tell you, change is going to happen. It's going to happen a lot. And I want to encourage you to be receptive to change. I can say honestly, over the years of doing this, we've had to change things I would say the core things that we do is still pretty solid, but we've made changes as things change. You have to adapt, especially like when COVID happened. There's specific things that we had to change when the society had to change. So we clearly had to, implement things immediately as they play out. But there are times when you have to just simply be flexible because things are going to shift. The law shifts all the time. Like we had that one probably happen more times than not, just as it relates to specific guidelines and rules. And we want to make sure we're compliant. We clearly are constantly evaluating things just to make sure that we are aware of what's going on, and making sure that we are following all the guidelines. So reviewing our policies that we have in place on an annual basis. Sometimes we do things semi-annually or quarterly, just depending on what it is. But your goal is to make sure that you are up to date with all of your documents, all of your compliance standards, all of your agreements. If there's things that change as it relates to contracting or HIPAA or anything like that, we make those changes. And then just make sure that you're checking on a regular basis. You have the sources you're checking in with to make sure you understand as changes are coming by, you're the first to know. So we're always tapped into various resources and sources to keep us aware of what's going on. We want to be informed of all trends that are happening, staying on top of any type of local ordinances where the properties are located, because what you don't want is to have something happen in your municipality and something changes in an ordinance and you are not aware of it and it could impact your property. Because once you get your property together and you are clear, you want to stay good. Okay. You want to stay to the point where you're not going to have any issues in your property. And if something changes and they saw you didn't change and they come knocking on your door, and next thing you know, they want to see what's going on. We ain't trying to do all that. We stay where things need to be and we stay aware of what's going on. So I would encourage you to stay connected to your neighborhood meetings that they have so you're aware, because they usually let you know when things are happening and you're engaged with them. But that's how we keep our just our program, depending on wherever it's at, open to making whatever changes need to be made to flow with it, because we want to make sure that we're compliant in all that we do. And then let's see this question here, and this is right before our question of what would you do? And you already know what would you do is like the question we've got in our school community. So I'll come back to that in a minute. But this is the question right before that. If there's any questions out here in the audience, here on live, be sure to ask me your question and let me know if you're in the school community, because I love seeing you guys and I love hearing from you. And any opportunity we can get to chat, I like doing that. So here, someone had asked me, how do I recruit skilled volunteers? And I love that word, skilled volunteers, especially when you rely heavily on a skilled volunteer to move you forward, right? And I'm just going to say there are areas, and it depends on if you take volunteers or not in your nonprofit or for profit. You can do it either way. And we take volunteers all the time. But you can't always think that people are just going to give you their time, especially a skilled person. So you have to figure out a way how to make sometimes it worth their while to want to do like a barter with you or exchange with you for their services. But skilled services that I think of is someone being able to offer legal advice for free, being able to train some of your guys. Like you can get people to volunteer some of those type of things because they want to give back like you give back. And a lot of times because of what you're passionate about, that's how I get them. But you really have to cater to that skilled professional in a way where it's going to help them and help you. So sometimes it's sort of like a give and take, especially like, let's say, for instance, what's the best one? Let's say we were talking budgeting, right? And credit repair or something like that. So someone wouldn't mind giving services like that as long as they line up with the things that we do, giving those services for free and volunteering their time for that if there's a natural lead into what they want. So dealing with mortgage brokers all day long have services like that that they offer. So I would say and encourage you, creating relationships like that and getting them to volunteer their time to work with your guys. Because once these guys get qualified to buy, and those are the type of program I create, is we actually do that for them, then who do you think is going to help them get that mortgage? That person who volunteered their time. So teaching people how to pay it forward with your guys, because that's the model we teach our guys. And I would just encourage you to think creatively on how you can create those partnerships. And you can specifically target specific professionals based on what it is that you're providing them. bringing them into your setting and getting them to volunteer with you. So as long as you're creating a good, you know, quid pro quo, I think that's what they call it, where I do something for you, you do something for me type of relationship, then you can truly make that happen. You can also encourage places to volunteer their time because you can thank them in a public way. So I can say those are ways, as just a handful that I can share here on this, that will be things you can tap in right now to recruiting some skilled volunteers to work with you. So, with that being said, we've got one last question. Those of you who've been waiting, um, related to our what would you do? We put a what would you do out in our school community. So, let me tell you, if you have not joined my school community yet, you need to join. And why? We have a group of purpose driven leaders who are creating transitional housing programs that are amazing. Everybody has a different, some of them are similar, but they're all different because of the gifts that they're bringing. And in this community, one of the things that we do every week is a what would you do? And this particular what would you do, I like this one because it touched a lot of people. And this was what would you do when funding comes with strings? And this is what it says: a new donor approaches you with a generous offer, large enough to cover months of expenses or even expand your program. But there's a catch. They want you to adjust your curriculum to focus on job placement only, cutting back on the mentorship and community building pieces you know are core to your vision. This could bring in resources you've been praying for, but it could also shift your program away from its original mission and the values you built it on. What would you do in this situation? Now, this here, I want to say you would have to pray heavily on this one when it happens, because it's easy to say what you would do today, but when times are hard, and you've been praying to God, Father God, help me bring in, I need XYZ coming in, and then this comes, right? So we got some feedback from some of the people in our group. So Tawana, looks like Tawana basically reminded us that it was wise to seek the Lord first and even consider creative negotiation, testing things on a limited basis. You had Sarah who pointed out um, to have us back to what our values are and having some discernment. It looks like Erica was standing firm saying all money is not good money. And we know that saying is right for sure. And she reminded us that if the vision came from God, so will the provision. Julian leaned toward negotiation and collaboration, finding common ground without losing the mission. And it looks like Susan echoed the truth that when God orders your steps, so we don't want to step out of what could lead us to failure. So this is it, bottom line, guys. Because it sounds, when we're reading it, this is truly a scenario, but when life is happening to you and all this is going on, you need to understand that funding is a tool, it is not your compass. So the things that people were resonating with when they were making their comments were dead on, because we don't want to get to a point where the funding becomes our compass. And I know a lot of people who operate by funding. I've seen organizations, nonprofits even, that they follow where the funding's at. Their mission changes to the funding. And you don't want to be that person. And I can honestly say, too, as you are moving into a space of creating legacy for yourself and creating based off of what you believe God gave you, I'm not telling you things cannot expand and grow, because they can. But if you find yourself always doing this as money comes, okay, now I've got this, and you're chasing after funding, your compass is off. And I would just tell you that money, if it begins to steer you and steer your mission, you're going to risk building something that looks successful, but is truly empty. It's going to look successful, but it's empty. I'm not going to call this particular nonprofit out at all, but I do know I've seen several in St. Louis that when that money show up, they're they look like they're successful, but they chasing the money. And we cannot chase the money, especially if we're wanting to make true change happen for people. And we are called to build on the foundation that God gave us. And we're not driven by what money does. Now, that doesn't mean we ignore opportunities, because opportunities will come, but it means that we test them against the vision and we negotiate where possible. That's why I loved when Julian said we would negotiate, because if someone's that strict on giving based off of what they want, they either didn't fully understand what your mission was, um, or they might have been confused about what your mission was. But we know that there is always opportunity to negotiate, but don't be something different than what your core is. Be who God called you to be in this vision. Move yourself to that space of where you are true to that. So, my answer, what I would do, I would thank the donor. I would explore if there is room to align their heart with our mission. And I wouldn't say, and without having to sacrifice all the programs that you know are your core. And if they're reasonable, they'll go along with you. So this is our transitional housing maximize live for free Q&A. And if you got blessed from this, there's more to come. I'm excited. I'm actually considering, I hope these 30 minutes that we get together is working for many of you. I'm thinking about expanding it to be an hour. If that is something that you think you'd be interested in having me do, go ahead and give me some comments. I want to hear from you, because at the end of the day, I love speaking with those of you who follow me. I love engaging with you. I want other ways that I can get your questions. Like those of you who are watching me right now, I would love for you to send me questions here too. Most of these questions come from my community, and I'll continue doing it in the community that I have right now. But I'd love to like have an exchange, or even better yet, we go live and I see you talk to me. Now, let me tell you this. We just got a new feature. I'm so excited. We just got a new feature. I should have tried it tonight. I'll do that maybe next week. Go live in school and here. So basically, I could be on two screens at the same time. Maybe I'll try that next week, but definitely give me some feedback on if you think I should extend this to an hour, because I would love to talk with you all. And I think I can get on camera and people can come when they want to. But I want to just make sure that this is something that we can do every week. I can get on live with you and have you ask questions, and then we get off. And, I just finished eating dinner. Maybe we'll eat dinner together. 8:30 is a little late for dinner, but maybe we'll do something like that. But I'm just excited to have you. This is us for tonight. I hope you enjoyed this Q&A, and I look forward to the next. I'll see you later.